Question. Can those discarnate beings from the ethereal, mental, emotional realm incarnate on Earth? And vice versa, human souls after death continue life in the mental or emotional plane. Since those beings are not ascended, do they go through life and death until they reach ascension? If so, then a being from the mental dies, where does it go? And if it doesn't die, then how come it has eternal life without the ascension? Well, in order to understand the question, you just have to have a little bit of background, which I've given in several other videos. But there are 4 levels of the material world we live in. And it's a matter of their vibration. Everything is made out of energy, that's what Einstein showed. And it's a matter of the vibrational level of the energy. So the densest energies are, of course, what we call the physical world. And then above that are higher energies that are the emotional, then the mental, and then the identity or ethereal level. And then above that, of course, the spiritual realm. So what I have explained in several other videos is that we are the conscious beings, self-aware beings in physical embodiment. We are inhabiting a physical body in the physical realm. But there are beings who are in the emotional realm, the mental realm, and the identity realm. And I've explained in several videos that we can talk about 2 kind of beings in those other realms. There are some that are what are collectively created entities. For example, there's an entity that is trying to get people to smoke tobacco. Because it gets energy from people when they smoke. So it's trying to influence people, their emotional bodies, their mental bodies, to get them to smoke. And that's a collectively created entity that people have created over a long period of time by feeding their energy and consciousness into it. But there are also beings in the emotional realm, for example, who used to be, they're human, we can call them human souls. They used to be in physical embodiment, but right now they are in the emotional realm. There are also some in the mental realm. And so this is what the question is referring to as discarnate beings. Because they were an embodiment at some point, but now they are not. They are discarnate. They are not incarnate. They are discarnate. So, can those incarnate on Earth? Well, yes, they can. There are beings or souls, we can call it, who go into, for example, the emotional realm for some time after they've had several lifetimes in the physical. And then they might spend some time there in the emotional realm. Some may go into the mental realm. Some may go into the identity level. And after some time, they come back into physical embodiment. They can have 1 or even several physical embodiments. Now see, the whole purpose of Earth is to be a schoolroom where we grow in self-awareness. So in order to be in physical embodiment, you have to have certain qualities you have to have to be ready to go into a physical embodiment, because this is the most difficult aspect of this schoolroom Earth. The densest. It's the school of hard knocks for many people. So it's difficult, very difficult to be in physical embodiment. It's not quite as difficult to be in the emotional. It's less difficult in the mental because they are higher energies, not as dense. And of course, even less in the identity. So it's a matter of whether people are ready for this. Now there are also in the emotional realm, there's something called the astral plane, which is the lowest level. And these are for people who in their embodiment, in several embodiments, were very, very selfish, self-centered, and abusing or killing, destroying other people. So they can become in such a low state of consciousness that they can't actually go back into physical embodiment, at least for some time. And therefore they are sort of trapped there. It's not really just a choice they are making, they're really trapped there. And so it can take a long time for them, and some of them don't actually make it out of there, they end up going to other planets. But so they can be stuck there for a long time, but there are others that can after some time in, for example, the emotional or mental realm, they have received enough healing and learning that they can go back into physical embodiment and work on some of the things that they didn't complete, the resolution of psychology that they didn't complete last time they were in physical embodiment. And that's, of course, the whole purpose, is for beings to resolve their psychology so they can move higher. Can human souls after death continue life in a dimensional world? Yes. Since those beings are not ascended, do they go through life and death? No, they don't. See, we have the death in the physical realm, and it's because, as I explained in several videos, the Earth was created at a higher level of energy, not as dense energies, which among others means, as they say in several of these creation myths, that people lived in a more Edenic state, where they didn't have to work to sustain their bodies, for example. But a part of that also was that bodies weren't as dense, so they lived much longer. You see this even in the Bible. There's talk about some of the early people, they lived for 800 years. And there's some reality to this in the sense that when the planet was at a higher level of vibration, physical bodies lived much longer. And there were actually people who could live in a physical body long enough that they could ascend after that one lifetime. In other words, reincarnation wasn't originally necessary. But then as the planet and the physical realm have become more and more dense, physical bodies have become dense, and that means that the lifespan of a physical body has become shorter, so that you can't ascend in after just one lifetime. That's why reincarnation has become a necessity. So in other words, it's only in the physical realm that you have death because of the density of the physical body and its shortened lifespan. When you are in the emotional realm, a soul can exist there for a long time without dying. Now the question then goes on to say, if a being can exist indefinitely in this emotional or mental realm, and it doesn't, then how come it has eternal life without ascension? But you see, it doesn't. That's a misunderstanding. A being can exist for some time in the mental or emotional, but not forever. You won't have eternal life. Because as I explained in my video about how the world was created, our sphere, our entire sphere that we are in, is unascended. And I explained this in depth in that other video, so you need to look at that if you're interested in the process. But the idea is that our sphere is not ascended, but it has a certain time span to become ascended. And that means that, the only way to achieve eternal life is the ascension. And the ascension is a process where you let go of all selfishness, self-centeredness. You acknowledge that you are part of a whole, as is everyone else. And you give up this desire or this ability to use your free will to harm in ways that harm others. Or in the ascended realm, in the spiritual realm, you have only beings who have chosen not to use their free will in ways that harm others. And so that's what you see on Earth. That's why Earth is the school of hard knocks, is because there's so many people who haven't made that choice yet. Therefore, they're constantly harming each other, constantly struggling against each other. And it's as a result of that that many people get so trapped in a self-centered state of consciousness after several lifetimes that they then go to the emotional realm or the mental realm because they can't handle being in a physical embodiment. And so what I'm saying is that the only way to achieve eternal life is the ascension. Otherwise, you will either continue to exist in a mental or emotional, or you may go back into embodiment for some lifetimes. You could also go to other planets that are even denser than Earth. But eventually, as this sphere ascends, you will have to make a choice to either ascend with the sphere, or to, as I explained in my video about how the world was created, you can fall into the next sphere and become a fallen being, and then you can continue existing that way for some time until eventually your I Am Presence withdraws the conscious you, and the conscious you goes through what's called the second death, where it's dissolved. So there is no eternal life without ascension. And ascension is, as I said, giving up voluntarily, using your free will to give up the desire to use your free will as a separate being. Instead, you choose to only use your free will as a connected being, as one with the whole. So you can use your free will in a way that doesn't harm others.